And we are back with Ezra Klein of the New York Times and the Atlantic's David Frum. So what we were talking about is how do the Democrats widen their base? How do they get beyond just their base? And what should they say in that circumstance? David, what do you think?
Well, the Democrats have the problem, the challenge, they don't have one base the way the Republicans do. They have a bunch of different, is it black women, the most loyal voters of the Democratic Party? Is it educated professionals? Is it the old unions? They all want slightly different things and they all turn each other. And meanwhile, the Republicans have a failure of their elites. Because one of the things I think we all need to learn from this 2024 election is you can't expect people who are paying for groceries to care about the fine details of institutions in Washington. Those have always been protected by agreement among the leadership of both parties. There are things you don't do, like try to overthrow the government if you lose an election. And Donald Trump has consolidated not just the Republican base, but the Republican donor class and the Republican leaders to say, trying to overthrow the government, acceptable.
So if that's the case, it's sort of this, the institutionalists versus the anti-institutionalists. Does it tell you that the majority of the American public are actually anti-institutionalists?
I think the majority of the American public does not care, right? And I don't know that it helped don't know that it helped Harris that she was campaigning with Liz Cheney, and sort of at the end of the day, it was sort of the guardians of the institutions versus the counter-revolutionaries, because what I think they misunderstood was the salience of institutions. And this was built on 2022, right? Democrats have this midterm election in 2022. They win unexpectedly. The red wave never crashes ashore. In retrospect, it would have been much better for them if they had gotten annihilated in 2022 as they had expected. But because they didn't, the unusual thing that happens with Democrats is instead of having a pivot after the midterm defeat, as you did in 1994 and 2010, to think about the voters you were losing, they instead pivot to think more seriously about the voters they are winning. Why are they overperforming in midterms? Why are they overperforming in special elections? And it's because they're winning these high information, high political engagement voters who turn out in these midterms and special election kind of votes.
So weirdly, large turnout now helps the Republicans.
Large turnout now helps the Republicans because it's full of people who don't care about the institutions and are not highly connected to politics.
And this is a message that people need to take away from this program. We are now back to a world in which high information voters count, in which people who care a lot about institutions count, and those institutions are going to be in enormous danger. So if you are someone who's watching this program, do not disengage, do not engage in acrimony, do not start finger pointing. There's an emergency about to break over American institutions, and you have to focus there.
And do you think, to extend that point, is Trump and what he's going to do, you think, enough, at least temporarily, to unify the Democratic Party?
It's not about the Democratic Party, because that's many people who, as Ezra said, care about groceries. It needs to unify everyone who cares about American institutions, the Liz Cheneys of this world, to say he's going to pardon people, he's going to cut off the Ukrainians, he's going to sell Taiwan, he's going to try to pardon himself, he's going to create a new doctrine that we've never had before of presidential immunity from crimes. The investigations against him are already being wrapped up. He'll put pressure on the states to cancel the state investigations. And he will look for ways to pay his civil judgments that are going to look to a lot of people like bribe taking.
So we've got about a minute. Do you feel as though when you listen to all this, the Democratic Party needs to, in very broad terms, does it need to move? It's tried to move left economically a lot, but it's never really tried to move right on social and cultural issues. What's the right strategy?
I don't think this is as simple as right and left. I think the Democratic Party needs to become more pluralistic, right? Be better at talking to many kinds of people and going into many kinds of places that it does not find comfortable. Also just needs to govern better and with more of a laser focus on the issues of people who don't always agree with it. The swing in blue states and blue cities was about inflation, also about disorder, also about high home prices, right? There was a lot of Democratic malgovernance that how bad Trump is was covering up. But if you lived in New York City or San Francisco or LA, I don't actually think this swing was such a surprise to you. I certainly felt it just talking to people day to day. So there does need to be a focus on actually delivering in the places Democrats govern.
Final thought, 15 seconds. Do you think there's going to be a crisis in the Republican coalition?
Unfortunately, no. I think that's just going to be saluting one bad action after another. There may be some foot dragging and slowdown, some attempt by some senators to get something for Ukraine, but as we've seen, they're broken on the inside. They'll conform.
All right. Thank you both. This was absolutely terrific.